Nash is the VP of strategy at Experian. He runs strategy at Experian, and he is building the company's agentic commerce strategy. He has more than 20 years leading risk and payments at the likes of MoneyGram, Western Union, and eBay, and we're proud to call you a partner. Good luck with your demo, Nash.
By the way, I started when I was 5. That's
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a quick view into the architecture that we've created. And so at the heart of it, we've got tokenization pieces, right? The KY and pay tokens are integral to making the agentic commerce stuff work. But I think what we also realized, exactly like we heard our friends at Blackhawk talk about, was that there's a need for the human trust as well, the KYC of the human, and the business trust, the KYB pieces that come along with that agent. And merchants need a way to really be able to recognize who is the human behind that agent for so many reasons, beyond just, hey, I need to approve a transaction. But we are also talking about when things go wrong, right? When there is a dispute, when there is a chargeback, how do you then trace that back to the person that originated that transaction? Hence the architecture that we've built, and we've built this in a very modular way, as you can see. There's different pieces that do different things. It starts, though, with the human that's coming in and initiating a bot, initiating an agent to do something, to search for a service online, a product online, to actually go shopping. We do some very basic fraud checks at that point, right? We call it fraud screening. But that fraud screening, even though it sounds simple, is pretty complex behind the scenes. We're doing, for example, a multitude of checks on email addresses. We're doing a multitude of checks on the phone number that the human has associated or said they're associated with. We do these checks in real time with email domains, with phone carriers across the industry. We're looking for things like tumbling, high-risk domains. We look for, has the number been ported? Has there been a SIM swap recently on that phone number? Is there tenure? And can you trace the ownership of that phone or that email back to an individual? Once we've verified these types of things, then we go to the actual issuance of a KYA token. That KYA token is carried by that agent. This is a Skyfire KYA token, and we partner with our friends here. We issue that token back to agentic platform. That is carried by that agent when the agent goes browsing for inventory on a merchant site. Our friends at Akamai don't stop that bot because they recognize that KYA token. They can unpack it in real time. They can see the payload contained within it. They also see in that payload that there is an Experian verified fraud check that's happened. Now the agent finds things. It finds my favorite pair of headphones from Bose, right? And there's an explicit instruction that the human is giving that agent to say, go ahead and buy me this pair of $359 headphones. You'll see this in the demo, by the way, in just a second, happening in real time. But when that instruction happens, and now there's the payment mandate, now there's the money movement involved. This is where merchants start to get really nervous, right? So this is where we go the next level. We do the KYC checks on that human. This is the only point where we introduce any kind of friction. Well, we've built the KYC checks in such a way that, and you'll see that in the demo, it's uber low friction. For that very specific reason. We want to make sure that we're not adding undue friction to a consumer who is simply shopping for a pair of headphones. We issue this KYA, what we call a full KYA token at this point, post KYC. We've done multi-factor authentication on that human. Experian is the largest bureau on the planet, but we certainly can have information about all of you in this room and every consumer in the US. And so we have digital data about these consumers. We've built this in such a way that it can be equally used for other use cases in the future. We're all talking about agentic commerce today, but what about credit card issuance? What about loans? What about mortgages? What about money movement? This framework can be passported to any of those use cases and work equally well. Then we get to the fun part, right? The payment. So the card networks want assurance that the card that you're sending me has some association with the person that wants to use that card. How do you screen for fraud against stolen payments? And so we use another Experian product because we have information about all your cards. We get reported this information by banks. So we screen that card for ownership, right? We screen for first name match, last name match, every element of the address match. This is not AVS. This is next level screening where we're binding the card to the person. And then the rest happens. We have a trust score that we've created for the merchant to call Experian to receive additional information. I want more information about Nash's shopping history using agents. When was the last time he shopped for something? How often does he do this? That's really useful for merchants to say, I want to approve this person or not. And then, of course, we've got some dispute resolution services behind the scenes that merchants can pull on for compelling evidence. We've got a service where you, as a consumer, can set some overarching rules. I don't want to allow agents to ever transact on my behalf, or I want to set a certain threshold. An agent cannot spend more than $300, things of that nature. All right. So with that said, let me just pull up the actual demo. And I'm going to walk you through this. This won't take long. It goes quick, but if I can figure out how to share. There. We've created a simple interface. This is an interface that we created with Ankit's help. Thank you, Ankit. It simulates a person signing up on Gemini, right? And so as a consumer, I don't provide much information to Gemini. They might ask me for my name, perhaps an email address, perhaps a phone number. We're integrated into Visa's lower environment, so we're using a profile that they've given us so that I don't end up with a bunch of headphones every time I do this demo. All right, so the person says, sign up. Here's their agentic interface, right? Here the person says, I want you to find me a great pair of headphones. We are using Bose as a merchant for this demo. On the right side of my screen, you're going to see what's happening under the hood, right? So let's say, find me a great pair of noise-canceling headphones from Bose under $600. I'm loaded. All right. Here we go. So first things first, fraud checks happen behind the scenes, completely passive, no consumer friction. Next thing that happens is we register this buyer in what we call our Experian Agentic Registry. Think of it as a database, a source of truth record. We reach out to Skyfire. They issue us the KYA token. It's a light light token that's created just based off of the simple fraud checks we've done. That's issued back to the calling agent. Agent carries that. It goes searching for merchandise. When it goes searching for merchandise, Akamai sees this traffic, and Akamai says, I'm not going to block it because I see that KYA token, I can unpack it, right? The agent is able to search for Bose inventory, and it comes back with some really great options for me, right? This is a live search happening on Bose right now, and this is what it brought back. I like this pair of $508 headphones, so I say, buy this for me. Now there's money movement involved. So you can see that we tell the consumer that we need to verify your identity. I'm going to try something really interesting, which is I'm going to stop sharing here. I'm going to share with you my phone screen, just so you see what that looks like. Right. And last time I did this, I shared some private text with my wife, which was not fun. All right, good. So here we go. We've got the actual text message that the consumers received. It contains a smart link. That smart link is awesome because when I touch it as a consumer, that's all I got to do. It's a single click on my phone. I've multi-factor authenticated this person. We've device fingerprinted this device behind the scenes. We've looked for device checks to say, is this really a human or is it a bot trying to do a bot, right? And I bring back details from experience data about this consumer. We can actually bring back everything about you. I don't know what just happened there. My phone rotated. So we can bring back your first name, your last name, your full date of birth. This is your legal first name and last name, not what I signed up with. And then we can bring back your address of residence. We can bring back your social security number as well. For financial use cases in banking and card issuance someday, we'll be using that. So here I just say, yeah, that all looks good. That's me, right? KYC complete. Now, this is all that the consumer needs to do. Single touch, verified, and this ends the session on my multi-factor authentication device. And now let's just go back to the other screen. So let me share that. Okay, so we're back to our shopping, and we're just verifying explicitly human in the loop. This is saying, are you sure you want me to spend your money to buy a $582 pair of headphones? And I say yes. So I'm authorizing this payment. We're collecting that explicit payment mandate here. And this is, again, transmitted via Skyfire into their integration with Visa. Since this is a Visa card and I'm in the lower environment, I have to do a couple of extra steps here, which is to just verify with a pass key. So let me do that as soon as this comes up. If this were in a production environment, you don't see all these extra screens, right? All right. So now that instructions gone to Visa, Visa comes back with payment credentials that are received, and then a pay token is created by Skyfire. You can kind of see that happening behind the scenes here. We've finished the full KYC. There's a pay token created. Visa is actually also verifying a tap signature about the agents because we operate within Visa Tap and VIC. Here, Bose chooses to call us for a trust score to say, give me more information about this buyer. I need that to do extra validation before I actually allow this checkout. And so we return a trust score. This is a little bit of a misnomer, but that trust score is actually a large payload of information beyond just the score and gives them a lot of information about the kinds of things we were talking about, velocities, payments, prior history of transactions, etc. And voila. Bose takes that trust score and says, yep, good to go, check it out, check out, and the checkout is complete. That's